I'm continuing the theme from last week and what Pastor just said and what Kenny said in Sunday school last night, the rest of the story. I decided to write a letter, and here it is. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Dear Wegmans, ever since it was reported that you're planning to build a distribution center in our front yard, interest groups and others have included information about us in their propaganda. The propaganda sounds something like this. Your site will be located near the 150-year-old Brown Grove Baptist Church. Brown Grove is one of the oldest African-American churches in Hanover. The site will be built on African-American graves. The site will be built on wetlands. The site will be built over the land where Brown Grove School was once located. While all this is true, what else does Wegmans need to know? What history, names, and events does Wegmans need to know? Yes, our history teaches us of the 6 newly freed slaves who in 1870 met in the woods to worship and has since evolved into where we are today. In addition to worshiping, they had to eat, raise a family, make a living, etc. They learned how to grow crops and raise livestock. They learned how to cook, like and love the chitlins and the pig's feet that their former masters had thrown away, and we still love them. They had to learn how to use the fat or the lard from the hogs and how to fry the chicken. I read somewhere on social media recently about hush puppies, and maybe you all did too, that according to this post, now we don't know if it's true or not, that the runaway slaves would have cornmeal. They balled the cornmeal into little balls, fry them up, and they took them with them. And as they were making their way north and the hounds were behind them, they would throw the balls of cornmeal at them. Hush, puppies. Now, I've not researched this information, but as resourceful as we are, I wouldn't be surprised if it was true. Later years, members of Brown Grove survived as sharecroppers, acquiring more skills, and eventually purchased land and built their own houses and turned them into homes. If memory serves me correctly, there were 2-story wooden structures like, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, those of Mr. Johnny and Miss Hattie Harris, Mr. and Ms. James O'Bally Preston, and my great-grandparents, Walter and Lydia Jackson. In addition, there were the 1-story structures where Deacon Percy and Ms. Virgie lived, Ms. Mary Preston, Wall and Grace King, and others lived. Once again, please correct me if I'm mistaken. I even remember seeing the remnants of the log cabin in which my great-grandparents, Mr. Walter and Marie Williams, lived. While I'm describing the structures, I'm certainly not describing the homes. These homes were multi-generational. Definitely 2, and sometimes even 3 generations lived there. Grandparents, children, and grandchildren lived in the same house. Cousins, nieces, nephews, blood kin or not, they also lived there. No one went without. Hogs were killed to feed families, chickens strutted across our yards, clothes washed in a tub and with a washboard were hung on the line and handed down from one sibling to another. We were the Waltons. Well, actually, the Waltons were us. Amen. We also attended school, first Brown Grove School, then Hanover County Training School, because we weren't considered educable, but trainable. So after Brown Grove School burned down, our grandparents walked to Ashland to the Hanover County Training School located in Berkeley Town. Unfortunately, many didn't continue their education at all. They stayed at home and tended to the farm, household duties, or took care of their younger siblings. Some graduated, others did not. Nevertheless, we persevered. Due to our training, businesses in Richmond and Ashland saw our worth, and we were hired to work throughout the metropolitan area. Our grandparents worked at FFV, the shirt factory, Lord help them, Reynolds, and elsewhere. They didn't have cars, y'all, so they either had to hitch a ride and or walk through the new road, that's Lewistown for those of you who don't know, to sit in the back of the bus headed to Richmond. There were no sick days, probably no health insurance, and definitely no 401k. The training provided either by the training school or being self-taught benefited our community because as time moved on, houses were built differently. We now have brick homes, and instead of a frame church, church, we had a brick building. Members were skilled plumbers, carpenters, landscapers, electricians, etc. They used their skills to enhance and improve Brown Grove's edifice. When I-95 came along, it could have divided Brown Grove, but it didn't. We continued to persevere. Speed and Briscoe and the Shell Station came around. They provided job opportunities for many of the men and women in the neighborhood. The county's comprehensive plan a few years ago included creating a cul-de-sac on Ashgate Road near where Aunt Mel, or where Cheryl now lives. Thankfully, that didn't happen. More recently, more jobs became available to us. We worked in the banking industry, worked for the Commonwealth of Virginia, worked in the medical field, served in the armed forces, worked in technology-related fields, and the media. We are educators, CPAs, lawyers, judges, authors, artists, playwrights. We have associate degrees, BS, BA, master's, doctorates, and JDDSs. Not only jobs, but also educational opportunities were extended to us. HBCUs, BUU, BSU, NSU taught us not only the curriculum, but also the history, our history. We learned that John M. Gandy was not just the name of a school, but he was the third president of what was then Virginia State College, now VSU. Other colleges and universities opened their doors to us: VCU, CNU, JMU, William & Mary, ODU, Virginia Tech, UVA, Purdue, Bradford, U of R, etc. We matriculated to nursing schools, cosmetology school, culinary school, business school, trade schools, enrolled in online classes, and even attended school virtually. Community colleges such as J. Sarge and John Tyler provided opportunities to transfer to four-year colleges and universities. Today, we own our own homes. We have 401ks. We even have a little spare change, both in our pockets and in the bank and/or credit unions. In addition to checking and savings accounts, we have CDs, mutual funds, money market accounts, and IRAs. If we so desire, we can drink from whatever water fountain we want. We can even buy bottled water. We can go through the front door and sit down at the lunch counter. With all the so-called changes and improvements, we still know how to take a little and make a lot. We know how to fry the chicken the way we were taught. We know how to pick the greens, clean them, and season them properly. That's why they eat at our restaurants, y'all. We know not to throw away that half-eaten turkey after Thanksgiving, but to add the potatoes and the vegetables to make the turkey hash. When the power goes out, we still know how to trim the wicks on those kerosene lamps. Nana would say you always keep potatoes in your house because you can bake them, fry them, boil them, mash them, make soup, and even chips if you want them. If you would like further information about Brown Grove, travel I-95 north to DC. We're even on display at the National African American Museum of History and Culture. So, Wegmans, you may take away the land, build your facility, but you'll never, ever be able to take our history away from us. It is here to stay. Sincerely, the descendants of 6 newly freed slaves who around 1870 met in a brush harbor somewhere on Sliding Hill Road. We are the historic African American community of Brown Grove. Thank you.